For overhead feeders, insulated service entrance cable suitable for exterior use and direct burial will be needed. Service entrance cable is typically used for connecting electrical services from the utility pole to the house. Similar to the triplex cable used by utilities, service entrance cable has 3 insulated conductors, 2 current carrying and 1 neutral, wrapped in an overall weatherproof jacket. The following types of service entrance cable are suitable for this application. Firstly, service entrance underground cable. This can be used both underground and overhead. It has a thicker insulation than service entrance cable for underground use. Secondly, service entrance round. This is designed for overhead use. It has a round configuration and is typically more flexible than service entrance underground. The conductor size of the service entrance cable will depend on the load requirements of the garage and the distance from the house. The load must be calculated and a conductor size selected that meets the National Electrical Code requirements. Overhead feeders must be installed at least 18 feet above the ground at all points. The conductors should be spaced apart to prevent arcing or other electrical hazards. The service entrance cable must be properly supported using standoff insulators or other suitable means to prevent sagging. Install drip loops at the ends of the cable to prevent water from entering the electrical box. To protect the cable where it drops down into the garage, run it through rigid metal conduit or Schedule 80 polyvinyl chloride conduit. Always follow proper safety precautions when working with electricity, especially when installing overhead feeders. Obtain any necessary permits and have the installation inspected by a qualified electrician to ensure it meets code requirements. When calculating the conductor size for the service entrance cable, several factors need to be considered. These factors include the total load in amps that the garage will demand, the length of the cable run from the main panel in the house to the garage subpanel, and the allowable voltage drop. The National Electrical Code provides tables to determine the appropriate conductor size based on these factors. To accurately calculate the load, list all the devices and equipment that will be used in the garage, along with their respective wattage or amperage ratings. This includes lights, outlets, power tools, and any other electrical appliances. Add up all the wattage values and divide by the voltage, typically 120 volts for standard outlets and lights, or 240 volts for larger equipment to determine the total amperage. After determining the total amperage, consider any potential future loads. It is generally a good practice to add a safety margin of around 20% to the total amperage to accommodate future expansion or unexpected loads. The length of the cable run affects the voltage drop. Voltage drop is the decrease in voltage along the length of the conductor due to its resistance. The longer the cable run, the greater the voltage drop. Excessive voltage drop can cause equipment to malfunction or operate inefficiently. The National Electrical Code recommends limiting voltage drop to no more than 3% for branch circuits and 5% for feeders. The National Electrical Code provides tables, such as Table 8 in Chapter 9, that list the resistance per foot for different conductor sizes and materials, typically copper or aluminum. Use this information to calculate the voltage drop for the cable run. The formula for calculating voltage drop is voltage drop equals 2 times the length of the conductor in feet times the current in amps times the resistance per foot. After calculating the voltage drop, compare it to the allowable voltage drop. If the calculated voltage drop exceeds the allowable limit, increase the conductor size to reduce the resistance and voltage drop. Repeat the calculation until the voltage drop is within the acceptable range. Select a conductor size that meets the National Electrical Code ampacity requirements for the calculated load. The National Electrical Code provides tables, such as Table 310.15b16, that list the allowable ampacities for different conductor sizes and insulation types. Ensure that the selected conductor size has an ampacity rating equal to or greater than the calculated load plus the safety margin. Consider the ambient temperature in the area where the cable will be installed. High ambient temperatures can reduce the ampacity of conductors. If the cable will be exposed to high temperatures, adjust the ampacity rating accordingly, following the National Electrical Code guidelines. Service entrance cable is available in both copper and aluminum conductors. Copper has a higher conductivity than aluminum, meaning it can carry more current for the same size. However, aluminum is lighter and less expensive than copper. Select the conductor material based on budget and performance requirements. If using aluminum conductors, increase the conductor size to compensate for its lower conductivity compared to copper. Once the conductor size has been determined, select the appropriate type of service entrance cable. Service entrance underground cable is suitable for both underground and overhead installations, while service entrance round is designed specifically for overhead use. Ensure that the selected cable is rated for outdoor use and is suitable for direct burial if any portion of the cable run will be underground. When installing the overhead feeder, adhere to the National Electrical Code requirements for height, spacing, and support. Maintain a minimum clearance of 18 feet above ground for the cable span. Use standoff insulators or other suitable means to support the cable and prevent sagging. Install drip loops at the ends of the cable to prevent water from entering the electrical box. These loops allow water to drip off the cable instead of running along the cable and into the enclosure. Where the cable drops down into the garage, protect it by running it through rigid metal conduit or Schedule 80 polyvinyl chloride conduit. This provides mechanical protection against damage from impacts or abrasion. Ensure that all connections are made properly and that all screws and terminals are tightened securely. Loose connections can cause arcing, overheating, and potentially lead to a fire hazard. After completing the installation, have it inspected by a qualified electrician to ensure that it meets all applicable codes and regulations. An inspection can help identify any potential safety hazards or code violations and ensure that the installation is safe and compliant. Always follow proper safety precautions when working with electricity. Turn off the power to the circuit before making any connections or modifications. Wear appropriate personal protective equipment, such as safety glasses and gloves. If unsure about any aspect of the installation, consult with a qualified electrician. Selecting the correct service entrance cable, calculating the appropriate conductor size, and following proper installation practices will ensure a safe and reliable power supply to the detached garage. Always prioritize safety and compliance with the National Electrical Code to protect against electrical hazards. In summary, for wiring a detached garage with an overhead feeder, several key steps need to be followed to ensure a safe and code-compliant installation. Firstly, determine the appropriate type of service entrance cable. Service entrance underground cable is versatile and suitable for both underground and overhead applications due to its robust insulation. Service entrance round is specifically designed for overhead use, offering flexibility and ease of installation. Secondly, calculate the conductor size. This involves assessing the total load requirements of the garage, accounting for all electrical devices and potential future expansions. The length of the cable run is crucial in calculating voltage drop, which should be minimized to maintain efficient operation of equipment. The National Electrical Code provides tables and guidelines for selecting the correct conductor size based on these factors. Thirdly, adhere to installation guidelines. Overhead feeders must be installed at a minimum height of 18 feet to ensure safety. Proper spacing between conductors prevents arcing and electrical hazards. Adequate support using standoff insulators is essential to prevent sagging of the cable. Fourthly, implement protective measures. Install drip loops at the ends of the cable to prevent water from entering electrical boxes, reducing the risk of corrosion and electrical faults. Protect the cable where it transitions into the garage by using rigid metal conduit or Schedule 80 polyvinyl chloride conduit to guard against physical damage. Fifthly, prioritize safety and compliance. Always follow safety precautions when working with electricity, including disconnecting power before making connections and wearing appropriate protective equipment. Obtain necessary permits and inspections to ensure the installation meets local and national electrical codes. Lastly, consider environmental factors. Account for ambient temperatures that can affect the ampacity of conductors. Use copper or aluminum conductors based on budget and performance requirements, adjusting the size accordingly to compensate for conductivity differences. By carefully considering these factors and following the National Electrical Code guidelines, a safe and reliable overhead feeder system for the detached garage can be achieved. Remember, if unsure about any aspect of the installation, consult with a qualified electrician. Additional considerations for the overhead feeder installation include grounding, surge protection, and proper bonding. Grounding is essential for providing a safe path for fault current to return to the source, minimizing the risk of electric shock. The detached garage should have its own grounding electrode system, typically consisting of ground rods or a ground ring connected to the grounding busbar in the subpanel. The grounding conductor from the main panel in the house should also be connected to the grounding busbar in the garage subpanel to provide a common ground reference. Surge protection is recommended to protect sensitive electronic equipment in the garage from voltage spikes caused by lightning or other electrical disturbances. A surge protective device can be installed at the main panel in the house and or at the subpanel in the garage to divert surge current to ground, preventing damage to connected devices. Proper bonding is necessary to ensure that all metallic parts in the garage, such as metal conduit, enclosures, and equipment frames, are electrically connected to the grounding system. This helps to create a low impedance path for fault current and minimizes the risk of electric shock. Bonding should be done using bonding jumpers or other approved methods following the National Electrical Code requirements. When selecting the location for the detached garage subpanel, consider factors such as accessibility, protection from the elements, and proximity to the load center in the garage. The subpanel should be mounted in a dry, well-ventilated location and should be easily accessible for maintenance and repairs. It should also be located as close as possible to the load center in the garage to minimize voltage drop and conductor length. The subpanel should be sized appropriately for the anticipated load in the garage, with enough spare capacity for future expansion. The number of circuit breakers in the subpanel should be sufficient to accommodate all the branch circuits needed to serve the garage's electrical needs. It is also a good idea to install a main breaker in the subpanel to provide a convenient way to disconnect power to the entire garage. When running the service entrance cable from the house to the garage, consider the aesthetics of the installation. The cable should be installed in a neat and professional manner, minimizing its visibility and impact on the surrounding landscape. The cable can be run along the side of the house or through the yard, using appropriate supports and protection to prevent damage. The cable should also be properly labeled and marked to indicate its purpose and voltage. When terminating the service entrance cable at the main panel in the house and at the subpanel in the garage, follow the manufacturer's instructions and the National Electrical Code requirements. The conductor should be properly stripped, terminated, and tightened to ensure a secure and reliable connection. The terminal should be inspected regularly for signs of corrosion or overheating, and any damaged or loose connection should be repaired immediately. The service entrance cable should be protected from physical damage by using appropriate fittings and connectors. The cable should also be supported at regular intervals to prevent sagging and strain. When working with service entrance cable, always use the proper tools and equipment. The cable should be cut with a cable cutter, and the insulation should be stripped with a wire stripper. The conductor should be terminated with a crimping tool or a screwdriver, depending on the type of terminal. Always wear safety glasses and gloves when working with electrical wiring to protect against injury. The National Electrical Code provides detailed requirements for the installation of service entrance cable and other electrical wiring. It is essential to consult the National Electrical Code and follow its guidelines to ensure safe and code-compliant installation. The National Electrical Code is updated every 3 years, so it is important to use the latest edition. In addition to the National Electrical Code, local codes and regulations may also apply to the installation of service entrance cable. It is important to check with the local authorities to determine what permits and inspections are required. A qualified electrician can help with the design and installation of the service entrance cable and can ensure that the installation meets all applicable codes and regulations. Hiring a qualified electrician can also provide peace of mind knowing that the installation is safe and reliable. Remember that electricity can be dangerous, and it is important to take all necessary precautions to protect against electric shock and fire. Always turn off the power to the circuit before working on any electrical wiring. If unsure about any aspect of the installation, consult with a qualified electrician.